At Arizona State University, we've made online education better, smarter, and more personalized so you can go further in your aspiring field.
I decided to pursue medicine once I realized that ASU did have the online program for biological sciences. You're still required to learn the same curriculum. You're still being tested on the same content that anyone would be tested on in person. The comprehensiveness of the program prepared me so well for medical school.
Explore over 300 programs at asuonline.asu.edu.
Breaking down every game, every day in Major League Baseball, this is the Baseball Betting Show. Here is your host, Greg Peterson.
A warmer Philly low. Welcome to lovely Las Vegas for the Baseball Betting Show with myself, Greg Peterson, now part of the VSiN Family Podcast. We've got a great podcast for you, and one that's presented by DraftKings and Vote Yes on Prop 27. Prop 27 doing all they can to get Californians able to bet online, much like over half the country is able to. You go to cities like New York, Boston, Portland, Chicago, you're able to bet online there. Meanwhile, in California, you're stuck in the cold, and Prop 27 is going to be helping Californians get out of just the dark age, get out of having to use those shady bookies. So that is something that is very good, and this is going to be very good. It's segment number 2, talking to Curtis Rogers. He is the pre- and post-game host for the Seattle Mariners over there at 710 Seattle Sports, and he's had about as good of a view of the Astros as anyone in recent years. We're going to be asking him about what makes this team so dangerous, and if there's any team that is currently remaining in the playoffs that could slow him down. I'm also going to be talking with him just about what we're seeing in general in the ALCS and the NLCS, get a little bit of a preview of Game 3 of the NLCS, and then in the final segment, going to give you guys my picks and analysis for Padres versus Phillies in Game 3 for this Friday, and a little something I like to call Touch 'em All. If you have a question, comment, segment idea, what have you for this podcast, you do have one of two ways to be able to fire those in. First one is my Twitter timeline at @JNet_D1. Keep in mind, letters CM, naming does not matter, so as per usual, please do send these into the timeline, and the other way, that is via an Apple Podcast review. If you rate this podcast 5 stars, it is very much appreciated. From there, you're able to fire whatever you'd like to hear on this podcast via that 5-star review. Did not get in any Twitter questions today, but let's take a look at what we got for the most part in Astros versus Yankees because of Greg Peterson experience. Now, midnight to 3 Eastern time. I do have to do this a little bit earlier, but we got a good lay of what we got on Thursday, so let's take a look back at it and try to look at some trends as well.
Games from yesterday is Greg buzzing about. Here is the rowdy recap.
As I record, we are entering into the 8th inning with the Astros up by a count of 3-2, and really one of the biggest takeaways that you got here is that Jose Altuve, as I record, is 0 for 23 in the postseason, and as I just jump on, grounded into a double play for the New York Yankees. Both of their runs thus far has come off of errors, as there was a bad error by Framber Valdez, but past that, rock solid. 7 innings, 101 pitches, 9 punch-outs, those 2 unearned runs surrendered. Brian Abreu was out coming to the game as I record this, and then when it comes to the Yankees side of things, Luis Severino, in my opinion, was probably yanked a little bit too early. He did give up the 3-run home run that is currently the difference to Alex Bregman, giving up 3 runs in 5 1/3 innings, but all in all, saw Jonathan Loáisiga was able to get a pair of double plays to be able to go 1 2/3 innings scoreless, so we shall see what gems lie ahead for the rest of this game. And then in terms of trends that we're seeing in Major League Baseball right now, this is excluding what we saw on Thursday entering into the day. Underdogs 14-13 straight up here in the postseason, with home teams going 16-11. Home field advantage has been big, with the under actually being behind overs, 14 overs to 13 unders entering into Thursday. So that's what we're seeing in baseball right now, and that's what we got on Thursday. Coming up next, let's take a look at how lethal this Astros team is and what we're all getting in the playoffs and who might be able to slow down the Houston Astros with our good friend Curtis Rogers over there at 710 Seattle Sports. He's joining me next right here on the Baseball Betting Show with myself, Greg Peterson, now a part of the VSiN Family Podcast.
Breaking down every game, every day in Major League Baseball, this is the Baseball Betting Show. Here is your host, Greg Peterson.
I'm over at lovely Las Vegas for the Baseball Betting Show with myself, Greg Peterson, now a part of the VSiN Family Podcast, and it is always great to have this guest aboard as Curtis Rogers does absolutely amazing work over there at 710 Seattle Sports, taking a look at so many different things. Unfortunately for us, the Seattle Mariners season is over, but he is still very much hard at work as he does a lot of the afternoon shows over there at 710 Seattle Sports. I know that he does quite a bit of podcasting as well. You're able to get all of those wherever you get your podcasts, and he does some Seattle Seahawks work when it comes to Sundays / if they're in prime time, a little bit different days as well, as Curtis does an amazing job taking a look at a little bit of everything, and I know that he, much like myself, except for college basketball season as well, to be able to follow Curtis on social media, Twitter and Instagram, at A Kid From Kent, all together. And Curtis, always great to have you aboard. Thank you.
Greg, always appreciate you having me on. And yeah, we're a little all over the map up here in the Northwest, but as we know, it's baseball season still. And yes, with the Mariners' elimination a couple days ago in that 18-inning marathon, it leaves me with a little bit more free time, but always happy to spend that free time talking ball with you.
Always love talking with you as well. And I love having you aboard because, well, I'm going to call it what it is. You've had about as much of a front row seat as anyone not involved in the Houston Astros organization over the last few seasons, being out there in the AL West. And what do you just make overall of the Astros run thus far as we're doing this prior to Game 2 wrapping up? But the way that I take a look at among the 4 teams that are remaining in the postseason, I really think that this is the Astros World Series to lose. So I'm sure that many people could have said that about some of the National League teams as well, and now we've got Phillies versus Padres on that side.
Yeah, I would be stunned if any team besides the Astros is lifting the trophy at the end of the season. I mean, they are just so well built from top to bottom, and I know that pains a lot of people to hear that, considering, you know, what happened in 2017. But I mean, even when they lose a big name like Carlos Correa, their first year without him, they replace him with Jeremy Pena, who has been incredible in this postseason. You know, he's got an OPS over 1,000. Yuli Gurriel has had a resurrection here in the postseason after having a miserable regular season. And then obviously Seattle fans know quite familiarly with Yordan Alvarez, you know, just how great he has been, not just in the postseason, but also throughout the regular season. So it's not just one guy doing it. It's not just your typical Jose Altuve, Alex Bregman types. And I mean, look at Jose Altuve. He's been garbage in the postseason, 0 for 19 heading into game number 2 against the Yankees. He's been a nothing burger for them, and yet they are still just mowing down team after team here. You know, they beat the Yankees in game 1. They sweep the Mariners. They have still gotten tons of contributions from really all throughout their lineup, even with one of their best players not performing well right now.
It has been a rough one for Jose Altuve, to say the least, but Yordan Alvarez, as you know very well, he has been the hottest player on the planet really over the last few weeks. So I do think that that's interesting to take a look at. And right now we don't know how game 2 went, but I really do feel like for the Yankees, as Curtis Rogers of 710 Seattle Sports is joining me on the podcast, if there's any way for them to be able to get back in the series, I really think the must-win game is going to be when Garrett Cole takes the mound. You got to think that that's going to be in game 3, unless the Yankees are completely overhauling things. But I think that start is really the best opportunity, because that's really the only game, in my opinion, where the Yankees are going to have a clear pitching advantage. With the Astros, they've got more pitching depth than any other team in the big leagues, which is why I do think that they're going to win the World Series. It's both the starting rotation and the bullpen. But in that one game, Garrett Cole, even though he ended the regular season on a little bit of a funk, he has looked very good here in his 2 starts in the postseason, and no doubt someone that knows the Houston Astros very, very well, and I guess you could make the argument for vice versa, the hitters of the Astros knowing him quite well too.
Yeah, I mean, this is why you signed Garrett Cole, right? For games like this in game 3, it's going to be pivotal no matter how game 2 goes for the Yankees. Either you're able to stay in the series at 2-1 or you take the advantage being up 2-1. This is why you shell out $300 million for Garrett Cole, because he is such an advantage whenever he's out on the mound. Like, this is why the Yankees are where they are, is due in large part to Cole's great pitching this season and just kind of the pitcher that he has been over the last few seasons. If you can't take advantage of having the starting pitching advantage like that, then I don't think this Yankees team should even bother showing up in game 4, especially if they find themselves down either 3-0 or 2-1 following game 3, because man, that would just be such a hole to dig themselves out of against this Astros team, especially if they're down 3-0. I mean, that would be a death sentence to this season for the Yankees, a season that got out to such a hot start. But I do think that in game 3, I like the Yankees with Garrett Cole going out on the mound. You know, he's going to be pitching on full rest too, considering how the end of the Cleveland series went, getting that extra day off between game 4 and game 5 because of the rain out. So you'll get as close to as healthy as Garrett Cole as possible. But yeah, you mentioned the depth of Houston's pitching staff. We were talking about it at work today. I mean, you've got Obviously, Verlander, you've got Framber Valdez, Lance McCullers. Those are the three guys that started against the Mariners in the division series. You had Verlander going in game one, and then also you've got Christian Javier, or you've got Luis Garcia. I mean, there are 5 guys who are playoff rotation worthy that you're really having to, pick and choose. Now you've got a team like the Yankees going up against you. That with a team as deep of a roster as the Yankees have right now, it still doesn't feel like they can match the Astros in terms of firepower, either in their lineup or in their pitching staff.
Yep, I think that it's really a uphill battle for whoever has to face off against the Houston Astros. Currently, it is the New York Yankees. We shall see who comes out of the National League, as Game 3 is going to be getting going on Friday, and it is going to be one Ranger Suarez going up against Joe Musgrove. And among the 4 teams remaining in the postseason, we just mentioned it, the Astros, clearly that number 1 bunch. But if there is a team that's able to take them down, the more that I look at it, the more that I like the chances of the San Diego Padres, which is very strange because, in my opinion, the Padres have actually played worse at home than they have on the road, just because Petco Park is a very pitcher-friendly ballpark. If you dig in their offensive numbers, they average right around 5 runs per game on the road. At home, it's a little bit more pedestrian, but I just take a look at that 3-headed monster. Blake Snell pitched significantly better than the 4 earned runs would show up as in Game 2. You've got Joe Musgrove, who's going in Game 3, who I think that he should be able to get the job. And then obviously at the top of the rotation as well, you've been able to have very good production all season long. With you, Darvish, being able to hold it down, that is big. But also with the Padres, with Josh Hader coming back to form, that really gives them a little bit of a better chance, in my opinion, than the Yankees and the Phillies, who have been a little bit shaky in terms of their bullpen. I'm not sure how you take a look at the playoff picture as a whole, but I do think that the San Diego Padres, if there is one team standing in the way of the Astros hoisting the trophy, it's them.
I think so. Like, the Padres have a very talented roster. In terms of just name brand players, I would put them probably in the top handful of teams in Major League Baseball. They're also a top 5 payroll in baseball, which, as we know, there is a very good correlation between spending and winning in baseball. I believe 7 of the top 10 teams in terms of payroll made the playoffs this year. So the Padres are not lacking on talent, that's for sure, especially in a roster that has Manny Machado and Juan Soto in the middle of it. And they've got, other guys who aren't necessarily the super duper star players of that ilk, but also guys like, Jake Cronenworth. You mentioned their pitching staff, how great it has been this season. I do think the Padres, in terms of their overall talent on that roster, could very easily, challenge the Astros in any sort of playoff series. And don't forget, the Padres manager, Bob Melvin, has managed against the Astros for over a decade when he was in charge with the A's, and that's as recently as the 2021 season. So he has got a lot of familiarity with what the Astros do, just who they are as an organization, how Dusty Baker manages his team. That would be something to watch out for, too, in a 7-game series, is if the Padres get matched up with the Astros. Just seeing the experience that Bob Melvin has in managing against a team like Houston, even though he's not in the American League anymore, he definitely would have at least some intel as to how the Astros are able to do what they do. I think the Padres, yes, this is kind of still almost the beginning of their title window. Fernando Tatis Jr. was out all season, and then he gets suspended, and then his suspension will bleed into next season, but you'll get him back at some point next year to go along with Juan Soto, who's only 24 years old, to go along with Manny Machado, who I believe is not even 30 yet. You've got a young core in place, and it feels like the Padres, even if they don't get there this year, they have certainly closed the gap between themselves and the Dodgers, obviously with their division series victory over LA. But then also, I think in terms of postseason success, too, this is a team that has been battle-tested. They made it this far in the 2020 season. Yeah, it was a little truncated and a little weird. This team is not lacking in playoff experience, even though they had the disappointing 2021 season.
Yep, and when it comes to the San Diego Padres as well, for every game that they win here in the postseason as well, they cut down that suspension of Fernando Tatis Jr. as well. So all the more incentive for them to continue to win games, and they have certainly been able to do that this postseason, as Curtis Rogers is joining me on the podcast. And I do take a look at that game that we're going to be getting for Friday, Musgrove versus Ranger Suarez. And I think that this is going to be a critical one for the series. And I do give the advantage to the Padres because we were talking about it with the Padres in general. I feel like one of the forgotten guys for this team has been Joe Musgrove. Was a little bit shaky towards the second half of the season, but was able to put himself right back on the map with that big win against the New York Mets, where there were more ears checked than there were hits in the game. So very refreshing to see. But I do think that for the San Diego Padres, this is a little bit of a big game because Game 4, you got to figure that with the Phillies, they're probably going to be trotting out their Noah Thor Syndergaard and a whole bunch of long relief. And for the Padres, I know that they gave Mike Clevenger a start against the LA Dodgers. They probably go with something similar. If you trot out their Sean Manaea, who was someone that I really liked when they traded for him, but he's not been good this year to say the least. So Game 4, I feel like, is a crapshoot. And I think both of these teams have just so much incentive to be able to win this Game 3 because Game 4, in my opinion, is the biggest toss-up of the series.
Absolutely. And everything is in flux once you get to Game 4 in terms of starting rotation, like you mentioned. Who will San Diego have out there? Who will the Phillies have out there? This series, to me, it's wild to think, but going to be, I think, the more competitive of the two, despite the fact that the Yankees were a 99-win ball club. You've got the Astros with over 100 wins. It just feels like the Phillies and Padres are a really good matchup for each other, especially because both teams aren't lacking really in talent. I think they've just been lacking in their ability to kind of get over the hump in years past. The Phillies especially. I mean, obviously this being their first playoff trip in about a decade, going back to, I think it was the 2011 season. You know, you look at just how this series has gone so far. Game 1 went the Phillies' way. The big home run by Kyle Schwarber, sort of the backbreaker. Zach Wheeler with a tremendous performance. Then in Game 2, the Padres come storming back after falling down 4-0 early. You see a very evenly played series so far. I would not be surprised if this one goes 6 or 7 ball games just because of how evenly matched these two teams are. I do give the advantage right now to San Diego. Like you mentioned earlier, Josh Hader seems to be finding that groove that he was in prior to falling apart really in the midway point of this season around the trade deadline. He seems to be back to the kind of pitcher that he was, the way he was able to shut down the Dodgers in the division series, also in Game 2 of the National League Championship Series. That's why you trade for a guy like Josh Hader, is lock down games like that, especially in big moments and big postseason moments. Padres, going from Taylor Rogers to Josh Hader. At the time, it was one of the theoretical big upgrades of the trade deadline. Obviously, Hader had his struggles down the stretch of this season, but as we know, when he is on, he is one of the very best relievers in all of baseball, and that is what he has been so far in October.
Yep, Josh Hader is one of the best closers that you're going to find in the big leagues, and Curtis Rogers, you are one of the best men that you're going to find in all of media, as you do an absolutely amazing job over there at 710 Seattle Sports, taking a look at a little bit of everything. When baseball's in season in Seattle, you do the Mariners pre- and post-game work. I know that you're doing pretty much something that is similar in terms of Seattle Seahawks right now as well, and I know you make all sorts of contributions over there with the station, and I know you've got some podcasts that you're doing as well, so let the good people at home know they're able to follow you on social media and just everything that is on tap for yourself.
Even though the baseball season has ended here in Seattle, we're still doing a lot of baseball coverage, especially with the end of Mariners season and then with the hot stove firing up in November. Sure to be a busy offseason, not just in Seattle, but across Major League Baseball, so we'll have plenty of free agency reaction as well. But like Greg said, you can download all the podcasts that I do. Extra Innings is the latest one. You can find that on seattlesports.com, also Apple Podcasts, Google Play, Spotify, wherever it is you get your podcast. Make sure you're downloading there. And then every day from 10 a.m. to 2 p.m. Pacific time, you can catch me with Michael Bumpus and Stacey Rost as well. And so a lot of fun here, finishing up this baseball season and then getting ready for the baseball offseason. But like Greg said, plenty of Seahawks coverage, plenty of NFL coverage, and then college basketball starting up here too. Gonzaga ranked number 2 in the AP poll. Greg, I know we don't really put much stock in the AP poll, but it's just one of those signs that college basketball season is nearing, and I know how close that is to your heart. It's very close to mine as well.
Absolutely, and it is going to be, in my opinion, an amazing college basketball season. I think that the AP poll voters got it right. I've got North Carolina number 1, and then Gonzaga a very close number 2. Houston, a very close number 3. You can go however you'd like to go in terms of those top 3. I really think that you can't go wrong, whether you put Houston, Gonzaga, or North Carolina as your number 1 overall team. It is going to be an amazing year on that front. And Curtis, for those of you guys that listen to my college basketball podcast, joins that one quite a bit as well in season. So we've got that to look forward to. And Curtis always does a great job of taking a look at the baseball slate. A big thanks to him for joining me right here on the Baseball Betting Show, now part of the VC Family podcast. Coming up next, just one game for Friday is the NLCS Game 3. I'm going to give you guys picks and analysis on that next as we touch our ball.
breaking down every game, every day in Major League Baseball. This is the Baseball Betting Show. Here is your host, Greg Peterson.
And we're back here in lovely Las Vegas for the Baseball Betting Show with myself, Greg Peterson, now part of the VSiN Family Podcast. Always great to be joined by Curtis Rogers. Does amazing work over there at 710 Seattle Sports, taking a look at not just a great game of baseball, as he does pre- and post-game work for the Seattle Mariners, but also, now that's in season, the Seattle Seahawks, as he does a lot of their scoreboard updates. Does a nice job taking a look at college basketball when that's in season as well. So, for those of you guys a fan of college basketball, my podcast, Coast to Coast Hoops, got you guys covered there. And Curtis joins me quite a bit during the season on that as well. So, always great to be able to get Curtis aboard. Now it is that time of the podcast that, well, there's only one game on the board, but I give you picks and analysis for everything that we've got on this MLB Friday as we touch them all.
If a game is listed on the betting board, Greg has a side and a total on it, so it is time to touch them all.
Do note that, as per usual, any changes that are made to these plays will be listed up on my Twitter feed at unit_81. Well, very easy to go in Las Vegas rotation order when you've got one game, but that said, we're going to be taking a look at this one game, give you guys everything that I've got, and we've got a DK Nation pick on it as well, as it is 971-972. The San Diego Padres are on the road facing off against the Philadelphia Phillies, as Ranger Suarez is going to be going for the Phils, and Joe Musgrove is on the bump for the Padres. A relative pick'em game. Padres a very, very, very slight favorite, and between minus 107 and minus 110 is where they're at. With the Phillies, you're finding them as bad as minus 110. I'm seeing as good as even money, though, so you're able to get a little bit more favorability, but it's relatively a pick'em game. 7.5 is the total. Under is minus 115, and the over is minus 105, and I was a little bit torn on the DK Nation pick because I do like this total over, and I do like the San Diego Padres in this spot, but I landed on writing up the San Diego Padres. I made them a minus 124 favorite because I think that it's going to be a relatively stagnant line, with the Padres probably being a very, very slight favorite on the close, but I just like the way that Joe Musgrove is rolling in general. He had more ears checked in his start against the New York Mets than he gave up hits. He gave up one hit and he had both of his ears checked, and he has given up a grand total of 3 runs in his last 5 starts. This guy has really been on one, and I mean, there was 2 starts against the Dodgers, 1 start against Cardinals, on the road against the Mets, and then against the San Francisco Giants. So, not facing off against schlubs by any stretch of the imagination. A road ERA, if you include the regular and the postseason, that is sub 3, giving up less than a home run per 9 innings on the road at fewer than 2 walks per 9 innings. Strikeout numbers are solid, right around 9 strikeouts per 9 innings, and Ranger Suarez, a little bit more of a pitch of contact guy that last time out he didn't look sharp. He only gave up 1 run in his start against the Atlanta Braves, but he walked 5 in 3 1/3 innings, and if that happens once again, that's not going to cut it against a San Diego Padres lineup that they average right around 5 runs per game on the road, 3.7 runs per game at home, very much correlated to the fact that they play in Petco Park, which is why the home numbers are significantly worse. And for Ranger Suarez, 4.27 home ERA, 3.20 ERA on the road. Now, he doesn't give up a lot of home runs, giving up less than a home run per 9 innings, so credit where credit is due there. But for the San Diego Padres, they've been able to do a relatively solid job of moving the line all season long. Will Myers, in road games, he's actually been hitting above a 300 thus far this season, so something to take note of there. If you take a look overall for the postseason, you've had Manny Machado hit above a 300, 3 home runs this postseason. Trent Grisham sitting at 285 with 3 home runs here in the playoffs as well. Josh Bell is starting to pick it up a little bit more, and then you've got Juan Soto, Jerickson Profar, Jake Cronenworth, Awesome Kim, all these guys hitting between a 238 to a 250 during the regular season. And though Cronenworth only hitting about a 222 here in the postseason, he has come up with so many big hits for this team. And on the flip side, for the Philadelphia Phillies, with Kyle Schwarber, we're all getting enamored by the fact that he hit a ball 500 billion feet, but it's not about a good postseason for Kyle Schwarber. Did have a multi-hit game in Game 1 against the Padres, but 3 total hits and 26 at-bats. Very much a feast for famine guy. 46 home runs there in the regular season, but only hit at 215. Rhys Hoskins has been hot and cold as well. He had that big home run against Atlanta, but setting a $147 here in the postseason as well. JT Realmuto has been really the best hitting catcher since the beginning of the month of July, hitting about a 300 between the regular and the postseason. Bryce Harper here in the playoffs, he's really been been able to take off. Since he came off the injured list last 35 games of the regular season, was hitting right around at 200 with 3 home runs, 4 bombs, and hitting a .419 here in the playoffs. So he's been able to get right Nick Castellanos. He's been hot and cold all season long. He's only hitting at 200 here in the playoffs. And for the Philadelphia Phillies, biggest liability with them is the bullpen. You do have someone like David Robertson, who has been rock solid. We saw Brad Hand really give it up in game 2. I think that he's a little bit better than he showed there. I think that the hate has went a little bit too far there, but certainly it's looked a little bit shaky. Sir Anthony Dominguez here in the playoffs has looked solid after he came off the injured list. Looked a little bit shaky towards back half of the regular season, but Andrew Bellotti, Connor Brogdon, Jose Alvarado, these are guys that have been hot and cold all season long. Guys posting up about a 3.2-ish ERA for Alvarado. Certainly a better second half of the season than the first half of the season, but even he gave up a home run in that wild card round against the St. Louis Cardinals. And for the San Diego Padres, I recognize that it's not a perfect bullpen, but Tim Hill during the regular season posted up a sub-3 ERA along with Robert Suarez. Steven Wilson has really been able to do a nice job here in the postseason as well, so I'm impressed by these guys. And then Josh Hader, 15 straight appearances without an earned run. He has been rock solid when it comes to the San Diego Padres team. Even Luis Garcia has been able to give you some good innings as well, so I think that you've got good value here on the Padres. I'm willing to lay up to a -124 with them, so that is going to be the DK Nation pick with the Padres. They're much more of an offense-oriented team on the road rather than at home. I think that they're going to be able to get to Ranger Suarez, and the Phillies, they still have a very solid offense, one of the best in the league. I think that they'll get to Musgrove for a few runs as well, so my total is 7.7. Looking at the over in my DK Nation write-up is going to be on the Padres, and that will wrap things up for the Friday edition of the Baseball Betting Show, now part of the VSiN Family Podcast. A big thanks to Curtis Rogers of 710 Seattle Sports for joining me in the last segment. If you do like what you're hearing from this fine podcast, the Baseball Betting Show, you're able to subscribe wherever you get your podcasts, Apple Podcasts, Google Play, Spotify, Stitcher, and TuneIn. If you have a question, comment, segment idea, what have you for this podcast, you have one of 2 ways to fire those in. First one is my Twitter timeline at JNet_81. Keep in mind, letters EM, they mean does not matter. So as per usual, please do send these into the timeline. The other way is find an Apple Podcast review. If you rate this podcast 5 stars, it is very much appreciated. From there, you are able to fire whatever you'd like to hear on this podcast via that 5-star review. I'll be coming at you guys every single day throughout the baseball season. That means I'm coming at you once again tomorrow. Thank you so much for tuning in.